Good morning, everyone. We're just going to give it about a minute or so, let people come into the Zoom room. Then we'll start. All right, we'll begin, and as people are coming in. So good morning. I'm Anthony Forgione. I'm the Director of Business Development for the HIA-LI. I want to welcome you to another one of our CEO Forum series. You know, CEO Forums were something that was developed by our board. It was something that came out of our Business Achievement Awards. Mazars was finalist to the Business Achievement Awards last year. So it's like one of my favorite programs. So we're getting to highlight managing partners, CEOs, and learning about his or her journey to their role today. But before we begin, I want to thank our board of directors. Our board really has stepped up during COVID. They've always supported us true-heartedly. But through COVID, we needed a lot of their support, and they did, and they supported it. I'm trying to see. HIA-LI, you want to share the next slide? There we go. Some upcoming events. Next Tuesday, we have our scholarship young professional program. We also have our virtual job fair, which has been widely popular right now. Tuesday, June 15th, we have Creative Solutions for a Productive Workforce, which are small business task force. And on June 26th, we have our future of the MacArthur Airport. And it's a great panel talking about tourism and what we have to look forward to now as we come out of COVID. And last but not least, I want to remind everyone that we are taking applications for the Business Achievement Awards, which is like the Oscars of small business on Long Island. And I would recommend and urge you, because this is a spectacular event, and it's really gives companies the recognition that they need. And there's so many companies have changed the way they've done business coming through COVID. So we urge you to send in that application. So without further ado, let's start like one of my favorite programs. And I'm going to introduce Melissa. And Melissa, I'll let you take it away.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Melissa Gonzalez, and I am a senior tax manager in the private client service group at Mazars USA, specializing in trust and estates and high net worth individuals. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with my colleague, Craig Fine. Craig has over 20 years of experience in the manufacturing and distribution industry with concentrations in food and beverages and pharmaceuticals. He delivers business advisory and financial management services to owner-operated businesses in the manufacturing, distribution, and service industries. Craig's
Melissa froze, so I'm going to I'll try to take it from here, Melissa, while you unfreeze, and hopefully, Anthony, everybody could hear me.
I can hear you. Yes, Melissa froze. So
yeah, I think Melissa, yeah, as probably we're all dealing with folks that are working remotely, sometimes their connections aren't as great as they need them to be. But my name is Craig Fine. I am the managing partner of Mazars USA on Long Island. Hey, Melissa, you're back. You froze. So I just picked it up from there. So just with some introductions. But I'm the managing partner of Mazars on Long Island. Mazars USA is a firm that's based in 13 offices. Long Island happens to be the second largest office in the group. The firm itself is roughly 850 people. On Long Island, we actually have 160 people, so we have a pretty substantial office on Long Island. And I manage that office. And when we say manage that office, my roles at an office level, at a high level, are a few things aside from my client responsibilities, because I am also a partner who still has a lot of client responsibility, and it's actually one of my favorite things about the job is I still get to have a client portfolio of relationships. But at an office level, I'm responsible for things like KPIs, as I'm sure everybody loves, billing, collections, all those fun things. I'm very involved with people matters, human resources, hiring, compensation, talent management. I'm also the face, unfortunately, for the firm in the local market, so they've gotten used to it. And I'm also, I guess, kind of a cultural leader for the firm, and our firm talks often about office culture and firm culture, and really building a firm culture across offices. So not every office is functioning differently. We want our people, our clients, to have a similar experience no matter what office they're working with in Mazars USA. I'm also a member of the firm's executive board. The executive board is currently a 7-partner group that runs the firm and makes management decisions. That group consists of the CEO, the COO, and the CGO, or the Chief Growth Officer. I am neither of those, but I am an advisory board member on that panel. So as part of my role, they vet issues with the group, and we vote on those issues, and we give our opinion on how to deal with certain major issues related to the firm, such as mergers such as hiring other partners, legal issues, those types of things. So that's kind of a quick overview of what I do. Mazars, Melissa, I'll throw it back
Well,
to you.
hopefully I don't freeze again. Can everyone hear me okay now?
I'm going to do a Rubio.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got to the leadership position and what your leadership philosophy is?
I appreciate that. Yeah. So how I got here, I'm Long Island born and bred. I'm happy to say I'm somebody who loves Long Island. I was born in Valley Stream. I did go to college upstate. I went to SUNY Albany, got my accounting degree, passed the CPA exam first time. I wasn't very fortunate though. I didn't know a lot. I didn't come from a family of business folks. I think me and my brother were the first. My brother's a lawyer. I'm an accountant. And I kind of had to figure it out myself. My father was in sales, and unfortunately my father passed away while I was still in college. So I didn't have a lot of direction from anybody that really knew anything. I went through the typical recruiting in college, and I didn't get anything. I really didn't know how to interview. I think I came across cocky, which I learned later in life. But got a job in the city. It was a tough marketplace. I got a job at a small firm, jumped a little bit from firm to firm until I found a home. And I actually found a home on Long Island at the time at a firm called Biscotti Grassi, which then broke off and became Biscotti Toback and Grassi. And I think a lot of people on Long Island know both the Lou's, the Biscottis, and the Grassi. And they're both really phenomenal business people. And I had the opportunity to work with both of them in their firm for a couple of years. And then in that firm to work for Lou Biscotti and Michael Toback. And in that firm, at the age of 32, I was fortunate enough to make partner. So I'm 52 now, which I used to think is young. Now I don't know how young that is anymore. But at this stage of my career, I have 20 years of partner experience. I've been in the profession, over 30 years. And early on, I learned a lot watching Lou Grassi sell and the way he deals with clients. And I learned a lot from Lou Biscotti, also with his, not only his client management skills, but his firm management skills. And one of the things that really impressed me about Lou Biscotti was he really believed in work-life balance, which for his generation, I think, was somewhat really unorthodox. And that's something that I really respected and took to. And I really wanted to stay at that firm and work with him. And then at some point we merged up. That firm merged into, at the time, MR Weiser Mazars. There's been some name changes, and now we're Mazars USA. And just early on, I didn't ask for it. I'm not somebody who necessarily asks for leadership. I'm a believer to some degree that the cream rises to the top, and if you display certain behaviors and you're honest and ethical and authentic, that if it's a fit, people are going to take notice. People took notice. I transitioned the management of the office from predecessor Andy Cohen, that some people might know, also a really great guy. And as he transitioned into retirement, I transitioned into the management of the office about 4 years ago. And then about 2 years ago, I was nominated for the executive board. That's a position that gets voted on by the partnership. I actually lost the vote the first time I was put up. I lost it by 1 vote. It was a 51 to 49%, which was kind of an interesting wake-up call for me. I hadn't had a setback like that in a while, so it was a little bit of a time for a reset. Did some soul searching, hung in there, and then the following year I was nominated again, and I was voted onto the board. So that's kind of a quick overview, Melissa. I know it's a boring story,
No, it's great.
but that's kind of how I got to be sitting in this lovely office doing what I do.
Why don't we shift gears a little bit and talk about Mazars, how Mazars stands out with their inclusion and diversity programs. I think we have some great ones, and if you could talk about them a little bit, that would be great.
Yeah, one of the things we do at the firm, and I think anybody who reads, either Long Island Business News or any of the national business papers, watches, any of the business channels, I sound like an old man, channels on TV, there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of effort around culture, which is an interesting term, culture, because culture, I think, can mean so many things. But at Mazars, we've really made an effort over the last few years to change the culture. The culture was always, a bunch of, white guys sitting in a room, doing what they do. And then as you worked your way into the ranks of the managers, the staff, administration, you'd see more of, I guess, a representative group that looks like, the world outside. And, we started to give a lot of thought really as to, what happens at a certain level, when somebody stays here for 5 years, 7 years. The first effort was really around women. And and this wasn't a Mazars issue. This is really an industry issue in accounting firms, often in other professional service firms like law firms, is firms would hire equally at the college or the management, the MBA level, the law school level, whatever that is. 50% men, 50% women. And then as you worked your way up through the ranks, you'd see that balance start to really tilt. And there'd be a lot less women in the profession. And I think every human being would on this Zoom, every human being I hope would realize that there's a lot of talent across gender. You don't have to be a male to be good at running a firm, or a male to be great at advising clients or doing tax work. But why are we losing that talent? And we realized through surveys and through other research that a lot of women in particular didn't feel that at a certain level the firms were really welcoming to them and supported their lifestyle. Women are often the caregivers for the children. They're the ones who are tasked with a lot of those roles. And Melissa, if I'm saying anything off base, you can give me a video.
No,
slap.
you're absolutely
There, all right,
absolutely accurate on that.
So, we created a group internally called Women at Mazars, and we started tracking the careers of, certain women that we felt were talented enough to rise through the ranks to manager, senior manager, and eventually either managing director or partner. And we tried to make sure that those individuals felt that we were meeting their needs, they were getting the flexibility they needed, the training they needed, the support that they needed. I'm happy to say on Long Island that over the last, I think it was 3 years, we made 4 new partners, and 2 of them were women. And I'm hopeful that this next group of partners that I'm hoping we're going to make, and there are no guarantees, as Melissa knows, will include both Melissa and a young lady named Shauna Ruiz. And out of the 3 or 4 candidates we have this year, 2 of them on Long Island are also women. So we're working on that. And that's really, not only is that to me a strategy that's fair and balanced, and that's, call it a social good, it's also a great business strategy, because I think we all know that talent is one of the most difficult areas that we're all dealing with now. There's a talent war going on out there, and COVID and the remote environment has really ramped up that talent war. And I don't know when a firm in maybe Seattle is going to reach out to Melissa Gonzalez and say, listen, we need a great trust and estates person. We don't care if you live in Washington and Seattle. We don't care where you live anymore. We're happy if you join us via Zoom, Teams, Meets, Google, Schmoogle, all that stuff. There's a million platforms, Skype. And we're fine if you kind of come over here, once every 3 or 4 months and have a live meeting. So it's important that, we really rally around our talent in order to not, lose those people. The next phase of that was, Melissa, you called it inclusion and diversity, because beyond just, gender, there's other things that for some reason separate us, whether that's race, whether that's religion, whether that's sexual identification. I'm not sure if that's the right term, because I'm not always as PC as I should be or as I want to be, at least verbally. I think emotionally I am. But so now we're starting to focus really across all those differences, and make sure that, again, we're creating a home, so to speak, where everybody feels comfortable, feels heard, feels that the firm and the people in the firm care about them. And again, it's not only is it a cultural good that, if you believe in equality, all men, women are created equal, but it's also from a business standpoint, it's a great strategy to retain talent. And it's also a great strategy when you think about, again, the changing landscape out there. Even on Long Island, I grew up on Long Island. Long Island, I grew up in a town where everybody seemed to, generally they were white, they were Jewish, they were Irish, they were Italian. It's changing, and businesses are changing, business ownership is changing, stakeholders are changing, and the firm needs to change along with that in order to stay competitive, and continue to grow. So I'll stop there. I can ramble on about any subject for probably an hour, so I have to control myself a little bit.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you lead, how it was to be a leader during COVID? We're mostly remote still to this day. And just what are some of the
Yeah, I'll say, it was an adjustment. I could speak at many levels. I could speak, as an executive board member or as a managing partner of an office. And I'll speak a little bit more on this as an office managing partner. We have 20 partners on Long Island of different, generations. And some of those generations are, I'll call it quote unquote old school. And even through the whole pandemic, Accountants in New York were considered essential. Right? We were an essential business. We never closed. So we never had an office closing on Long Island. We never had an office closing in the New York City office. Some of the other offices in other states were different. So we were open. That being said, probably 95% of the office within a 3-day period went fully remote. And I'll say we did it relatively smoothly, I think. And I think we were fortunate in a way. Mazars has a large consulting practice. So a lot of consultants generally work remotely anyway, or they don't necessarily attach to an office. They're at home and they come in when need be, and they've always been Skyping and using things like Zoom. Our audit teams were used to working at client sites and also, sharing data remotely. Our security, Mazars is part of a global organization. We have global firewalls. We have, if anybody reads the paper, we have a very high profile client, and there's been no leaks. We take our security and our client security very seriously here. So in some way we were built for this. So the challenge to go remote was not that difficult. The challenges were more around, what policies to put in place, how to make sure our people were dealing with this situation well. We started to identify that certain people were thriving in this environment. Hey, this is great. I love this, blah, blah, blah. Other people were really struggling. Maybe they didn't understand the technology. Maybe work for them was the lifeline where they would come to an office and interact with people. And when they're home, they didn't have those interactions. Maybe their kids weren't going to school now, and you had, a young family, maybe a single mom, with 2 or 3 kids at home. Those were the things that became very, very challenging, to deal with at a firm level, because no matter what's going on with the firm, like any other business, we also have a business we have to run. We have clients we have to service, and we have expectations we have to meet. So some of those challenges were not easy to deal with. And there was a lot of outreach. I'm sure a lot of the folks on this Zoom probably can identify this with this. We had a lot of outreach to our people. We started with some of the fun stuff, the Zoom happy hours, the trivia, all that stuff. And early on, I think people really, Zoom was a novel thing. So people enjoyed it a little bit. I think as you went through the pandemic, people got sick of Zoom. There's a lot of talk of Zoom fatigue. And if there's, you get that, that text, if there's one more Zoom happy hour, I'm gonna kill somebody. But we did our best to maintain people's morale. I think, frankly, I think we did a really good job. Our COO started doing a Friday reach out. So at about 4 o'clock every Friday, you get a communication from the firm about some of the things going on and some of the things that maybe he was either dealing with or seeing personally, or people were telling him personally. I think there was a lot of outreach that was kind of human. It was more about people's feelings, concerns, more so than, hey, where are those 10 tax returns? When am I getting it? And I think people really identified with that. And I'm very happy to say that on the Long Island office, we had, I think, the least voluntary attrition of any of the offices in the firm. And I think we really did a good job of creating groups, of creating that venue to talk, say what issues you have in a very non-threatening way. And I think to this day, we're looking, and I'm sure a lot of the folks on this call, business owners, are thinking about the same thing. The what now? How do you bring them back? You know, when are they coming back? And I get a lot of that, especially from the partners who are maybe in their 60s, you know, that maybe cusp of the later Gen Xers, the baby boomer folks a little bit. And, you know, our answer to them is, you know, maybe never. You know, that there's been a paradigm shift here, and we don't know in our firm if it's ever going to come back. And we're not mandating that people, hey, June or September 15th after Labor Day, come back. We're going to continue on with a flexible work schedule. You know, we're mandating some structure to that schedule. You know, one of the things we're mandating is what we call core hours. Between the hours of 10 and 3, if you're working, if you're not on a PDO, a paid day off, you're expected to be reachable between 10 and 3. If I call you, you're going to answer. And of course, listen, you might be on the phone with another client or something. Maybe you have a personal matter, but you're going to get back to me and say, listen, you know, I can't talk to you now. I'll get back to you at 11. So you're gonna be available. You're going to, if we're gonna have a Zoom meeting, you can't come to the office for a meeting. You're going to participate in that meeting. You're gonna have your camera on. I see my kids have to do this in school. They don't get to sit there with their camera off, you know, clipping their toenails. They have to be on the video so the teacher can see them and see that they're participating in the meeting. You have to participate in the meeting. You have to be dressed as if you're going to work. You don't have to put on a suit, but you can't be dressed in your pajamas. You know, you have to look professional, and you have to be on that Zoom. If there is a reason to be in the office, you know, we call it back with a purpose. Maybe a client, we're a CPA firm, clients ask us to show up at their offices. And if a client has an office and it's safe, and they need you there, you're expected to be there. So we don't want to negotiate every time with an employee and say, well, you know, we need you, well, you can't. But we want to be flexible, and we don't want you to have to show up if you're being productive at home. And that's kind of the key, is production. You need to be productive. And, you know, in a CPA firm, and I'm sure in a lot of businesses, there are ways to monitor production. You know, with CPA firms, we're notorious for our timesheets. You know, what'd you do today? You know, that's one thing, but we're also notorious for tracking what we call deliverables. So if a client, you know, that we have deliverables based on deadlines. You know, we have lists and lists of tax returns and financial statements that have to go out by a certain date. But we also have the anecdotal qualitative deliverable when a client needs something. You know, and a client will call me and say, hey, Craig, I'll pick on Melissa. I called Melissa. She didn't get back to me. I called her twice. You know, those are not the things you want to hear. And if you want to be respected in the remote environment, we expect our staff to respect our clients, expect each other, and be present. So that, hopefully, Melissa, that's a good kind of overview.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you know, I think it's one of the things that is helping retain our staff as well and keep them happy is by allowing the flexibility. And obviously, like you always say, hopefully everyone's an adult and they get their work done and, you know, and meet those responsibilities.
Yeah.
What are other ways?
I'm sorry, I was just going to say, I never, and you know that, Melissa, I never want to micromanage anyone. I don't have the bandwidth to know where everybody is. You know, there's an expectation, and you talked a little bit about the beginning about expectations. I mean, about philosophy. And I often talk to staff about expectations, you know, and if you think about a business, a lot of what a business does is it manages expectations, especially in a professional service business. You know, the staff is managing the client expectation. They're managing maybe their manager's expectation. The manager is managing the partner's expectation. The client expectation is enormous. And that's really what we need to do. We need to be able to communicate realistically with a client and with each other about what's going on. You know, hey, Craig, I can't get to this till Thursday because I have, you know, these other 4 things. Okay, let's tell the client, are you okay? I'm okay. All right. But now you got to deliver on Thursday. And that's a lot of what we do. And a lot of what I talk to our staff about, you talk a little bit again about philosophy, because there's a million philosophical things we could discuss, but I'm always telling the staff that we're a firm of 800 some odd people. If you think about that, we're supporting a lot of families. We're supporting, if each of those 800, had somebody that's relying on them, that's 1,600, right? Do the math. If everybody had a spouse and a child, on average, you 2,400 people, if my accounting math is correct. Then you have all your clients, and their families. We have a lot of people that rely on us. And we're not in the business. I was at my cardiologist's office the other day. He asked me, about anxiety and what stresses me out. And I said, listen, I'm fortunate. I don't do what you do, cardiologist. If you make a mistake, I'm dead. Like that's a pretty heavy responsibility.
Right.
If we make a mistake, it's often financial, it's stressful, but it's often something that could be fixed, managed, and we can get around that. But that doesn't mean you want to make the mistake. That doesn't mean you want to have that situation, that issue. And we have a responsibility to each other in this business to make sure we're delivering, to make sure we're meeting expectations, to make sure we're communicating, to make sure we're delivering the best service possible, not only to the client, to each other. You mentioned philosophy. I kind of, that's always been my mantra. I'm taking care of a lot of people, not let alone my own family. And I always go to the movie Risky Business when the pimp says to Joel, you don't screw with him. I'm cleaning it up. You don't screw with a man's livelihood. And I feel that about all myself, my partners, my staff, and my clients. And it doesn't have to be a man. It would just happen to be, you don't screw with somebody's livelihood. So anyway, I'll stop there before I say something really inappropriate. Mentioning pimps and
how are you keeping the staff? What are we doing? What are some of the initiatives you're doing to keep our staff happy, for lack of a better word? I know we've come off some pretty crazy tax seasons.
Yeah,
this has been never ending, basically. So
if you speak to people in industry, they call this the 15-month busy season. Like just from last year with the extension to July, to this year to the extension to May, it never ended.
Right.
A lot of those folks didn't even really have a summer. Like the summer was just an inundation of tax work and financials and 401k audits and just work that just kept coming, and no one really had a break. And then they really couldn't even take a break, right? You couldn't, it was like, why am I taking vacation? And you saw that. You saw people weren't taking their PDO time. There was no place to go. They were home. They were, bouncing off the walls a little bit. So this year we've said to the staff, listen, we want you to take the PDO. May 15th was the deadline. Our tax department has something they call it SOS, Save Our Summer, where we've created certain deadlines to meet certain deliverable goals. And then we can, with confidence, tell our people they can take that PDO uninterrupted. You could go away, take your week. Nobody's going to call you. Let us know, finish what you have to do. We're not going to call you. We're not going to call you to ask you a question. Where's this? Where's that? Did you do this? You could take a real mental health break, which I think a lot of people need. We've also created a program, where if certain requirements are met, the staff are getting additional PDO, and they're getting additional bonus. And they're basically getting paid to take PDO. It's like a bonus for taking your PDO. And it's all a heavy push to get people to realize that you can take a mental health break. This is not, indentured servitude. Nobody is tying you to your desk. We have the staff, we have the means, we have what we need to do to get the work out the door in an orderly fashion. And there is no reason, a staff person, that you can't take a break, go somewhere with your family, do what you have to do. And we're even going to pay you to do it. We're going to give you some extra money to do it, so you can even enjoy yourself a little bit more. So that's one thing that really, I think, resonated very well with the staff. I'm hopeful we're having our first office party live next week. It was supposed to be today, but it's supposed to rain on the roof. If anybody's been to the Mazars office on Long Island, it's in the Arizona Iced Tea building, which has a really nice event space on the roof, which we often use for networking. And we used to, use them often for our staff parties. So we're gonna have a staff party. It's gonna be a little bit, smaller than usual. We broke it into 2 sessions. So we are also, we're also doing that. We do a lot with communications, town halls, a lot of telling people what's going on. We do a lot with surveys, as Melissa's aware, where we survey the staff, ask them what's going on, to get a feel for what they're feeling, what they want to see, what they're comfortable with, what they're not comfortable with. Another thing that we're doing, which actually came out of the surveys, we always did survey summer hours, where in July, on Friday, we'd say, listen, end the day 3:30, cut out, do what you got to do. This year we started that, right after, it's not Labor Day, right?
Memorial Day.
Memorial Day. I'm sorry, I get my days.
Memorial Day.
Yeah, right after Memorial Day. So what we're giving everybody now in June, you can, do that on Friday, cut out, hopefully the weather's nice, enjoy that. And I think people really enjoy those things. I think on Friday, most people are mentally fried anyway, and they're ready. So those are just some of the things that we do. Another thing that I think we do that's kind of fun, that just came to mind when Melissa mentioned inclusion and diversity. We started something where we talk about diversity in meals, and we have like a monthly cooking show, where somebody that works for the firm cooks something that's related to their culture. And this last month was Jewish Heritage Month, so I got tapped. The people in the firm know that I'm a bread baker, and on Fridays I often make a bread called challah or challah for my family, and I gave a cooking class to the staff, and I've been getting picture after picture of people's loaves sent to me at this point, and it's pretty impressive. So we've done that. We've, somebody made fried rice one day, somebody made Irish soda bread, somebody made a spanakopito, which I think it's a Greek spinach pie. So it's kind of been interesting. People seem to resonate with that. They seem to like to share their experiences, with that. We also do a lot around team building, days of service.
Mm-hmm.
I met at HIA, John Miller, and we're starting to talk internally about how we can help his organization, the Guide Dog organization for the blind. We've done a lot with Island Harvest, a lot with Elijah Farms. We really try to do a lot of local stuff, and our people really seem to enjoy getting involved. And we had a young man who worked here until recently. His fiance was working at Elijah Farms, and she asked if we take in one of their students who has autism and give him a job. And pre-COVID, he was working here, I think 1 or 2 days a week. So we do a lot of cool stuff to build culture, to be part of the community. So I'm rambling as always, Melissa, so I'm gonna stop rambling.
No, it's good. Yeah, I obviously we do a lot of cooking in society too. Rambling on. Let's change gear and go a little more towards client focus. Talk about how we're staying connected with clients and how we're assisting them during these hard times as well.
Yeah, for the clients, a lot of the clients, they were obviously very curious about a lot of the tax acts that came out, whether it's the CARES Act. Obviously everybody knows about the PPP programs. I'm probably adding an extra P when I say program, but the PPP money, the ERC, which were the employee retention credits. There was a lot of stuff that came out that a client could take advantage of from a cash flow standpoint, to also support their people, support their businesses, and maintain, their business and their payroll. And we early on, we did a lot around the research to that. We had a lot of webinars. Many on this call might have been part of our Find the Money webinars or Where's the Money, because those laws, those rules were rolling out on a daily basis, from SBA, from Treasury to the IRS, et cetera. So we did a real deep dive into that. I got great reviews from clients about how supportive we were in that process. I also always, we have a monthly partner meeting for the Long Island partners, and we're always talking about what we're doing internally and what we could do to benefit our clients, what our clients are seeing, and what advisory services recommendations we can make to clients. Because unlike me, who has 100 partners, often a client is a business owner who doesn't have another partner, doesn't have maybe an advisory board. Maybe they don't have somebody else they can lean on. So really those reach outs we were doing to staff, we were also doing to our clients, because clients, had a lot of questions, they had a lot of needs. Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing about social distancing? What are you doing about mask policies? What are you doing about furloughs? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? And as a CPA, we're often, kind of the hub in that wheel, where there's a lot of spokes, where the client comes to us and says, where can I get this help? What can I do? So we really, I switched into high gear, and I think our clients are very satisfied. I actually gained some new clients that their CPA firm maybe wasn't as proactive, and I made a lot of friends that aren't clients, but maybe they're prospects, maybe they're just friends in industry that needed that help. And I think just by sharing stories, CPAs are fortunate. We see on an annual basis hundreds of situations, and as a collective, it's thousands of situations that we could take from and advise our clients on. So I'm concerned about the time, so I'm going to ramble less.
Why don't you tell us what has been the hardest thing to deal with as a leader so far?
Hardest thing to do with is what?
To deal with as a leader, like something that you know.
For me, early on it was, and I had this experience early on at Biscotti Tobac. The first time that I was elected, I was kind of the appointed personnel partner. And with that, I got the ability to hire people, which is a lovely thing to do. But with that also comes the responsibility sometimes of firing people, which is almost never a fun thing to do. So, as a leader, those decisions are never decisions to take lightly. I've kind of learned in my career with personnel, sometimes by letting somebody go, you're actually doing them a favor, because it wasn't a good fit anyway. Maybe they don't belong in this industry. Maybe they just don't belong in this firm. But they were never going to really have the opportunity to grow in this firm. So that's always, that's always been a challenge. But I think people, I'm assuming there's business owners on this call. I'm not seeing all the faces. But business is hard. I was at we have an annual food industry event, and one of the speakers was one of the founders of Fairway. And he said something that resonated with me. He said, and I'm of course paraphrasing, but he said on a daily basis, a leader is making multiple decisions. And day to day, you never know what's going to come up. You come to work thinking I'm going to work on A, B, and C, and then you get the call and you're working on D, E, and F. But you're not always going to be right. But you got to be right most of the time. And there's a lot of challenge with that. And sometimes I see the difference in leadership and maybe the partners who are just dealing with client portfolios that maybe aren't leaders in the firm. And some of it is that ability to make a decision and not to be afraid. And you really can't be afraid. You know, you have to utilize, you have to do the due diligence you can do. Often you have to do it quickly. You obviously have to be ethical. You have to think about people's feelings, et cetera, and what I like to call the unintended consequences. You know, I make this decision now, what's going to happen? But those aren't easy things, but somebody's got to make those decisions. And that's the position I'm in, and I relish it. I enjoy making those decisions and helping to make policies and making decisions that impact things, not necessarily only in the near term, but in the long term. So it's difficult, but it's fun, and it's one of those things that gets me out of bed and gets me charged up on a daily basis to see, you know, what I'm going to deal with. Even something like this, you know, this isn't like an easy thing to get in front of, you know, 23 people, you know, and speak. But and I was nervous and stuff, but you know, you have to, you know, face those nerves and face those fears a little bit, and these are fun things also. It's almost a nervous energy more so than a fearful energy. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do, since I'm here with you.
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate that, Melissa. I
Before we
tapped you
take the
because I know a
question-
lot of people wouldn't have the guts to do this. So thank you.
Yes, of course. So before we take some questions, why don't you just tell us, finish off with what you're the most proud of, you know, so far in your leadership?
Yeah, listen, I think I often think I'm kind of a bellwether for how a lot of people think. I'm very proud of, you know, my family, you know, what I built, my children, my wife, you know, all those things, you know, and I tell my kids, I have 3 children, 20, 17, and 13. And I have a son who's going to be a senior in college, and he's studying for the LSATs. He wants to be a lawyer. And to some degree, my kids have had a somewhat privileged lifestyle. We're not, you know, ultra wealthy people, but I think they've really never had a worry. They've never really had a want for anything. You know, they've wanted things and not gotten them, but, you know, nothing that they've really needed. And I tell him that, you know, this might look easy to you, but this is hard. You know, getting up every day, succeeding in business, having a family, these are not easy things. These are hard things. These are things that take planning, they take thought. You don't always get your way, they take compromise. So, you know, from that standpoint, I'm definitely very proud of, you know, my family, what I built. Listen, I'm proud of the firm. I think the firm's come a really long way, and I'm proud to be a part of it. You know, we've evolved a lot. I've been here for 9 years, and the evolution in this firm in the last 9 years, and the Long Island office. Our office on Long Island was often, and I'm sorry if Melissa has red hair, but it was often treated like the redheaded stepchild, you know, compared to the big New York City office. And we had a lot of very high profile partners in our New Jersey office. And Long Island was always, it was like the outpost. It was like Dances with Wolves. You know, when I came out here, I used to be like Tatanka, you know, with the buffalo. And now I think we built an office, you know, and the infrastructure was there. So I didn't do this myself. It took a lot of people, but I think we've done a great job making Long Island a great office. And now when partners come here, and now in COVID, a lot of them have come here that used to commute to the city. And they say to me, like, holy crap, this is a great office. Why didn't I ever come here before? I was taking the train. I'm like, I don't know. You know, so we've kind of become a little bit, you know, the best kept secret. So I'm proud of that. And I'm often, you know, when I look at my career, I'm very proud of the fact that I've been a partner in a CPA firm for 20 years. It's not an easy job. And I'm very proud of the relationships I've created, both within the firm and outside of the firm. On Long Island, you know, I've worked with some great companies, some great CEOs, who I've learned a lot from, and I think I've taught a little bit too. I have networking connections on Long Island, many of which are members of the HIA. It's just, for me, it's been a great run. I'm 52. I have at least another 10 to 13 years of this. So I hope it continues, but I am very proud of what I've built and what I've been a part of building.
Yep.
So I'm going to pause there. There's 9 minutes left. I'm losing my voice. I'm going to do another Rubio. This joke to me
Well,
never gets old. Some people are like, you're still telling the Rubio joke? I'm like,
Well, I guess if we have any questions, Anthony, I'm not sure if any have come in.
I don't see any questions, but I will say, this is why I like these series where we have highlight a senior executive, because, you know, Mazars, CPA firm, all right, they're a CPA firm, but listening to you, Craig, describe the employee culture, is describe what you do inside, not only to your customers, your clients, your prospect, but to the employees, which is the lifeblood of any organizations. Would make me want to work for Mazars, to tell you the truth. So
I appreciate that. If you have a resume, Anthony, send it over.
We're always looking, we're always
You look
looking.
like a tough boss. I don't know.
You seem like a quality individual. Send it over. No, and I appreciate that. And on some level, a CPA firm is almost like the ultimate people business, right? We rely on computers, but we don't have machines, right? And I work with a lot of manufacturers, right? They have machines and shifts and they have their own issues with people and stuff, but this is people interacting with other people, interacting with clients who are people. It's layer after layer of interaction, and yeah, all you have when you strip it away are your people, your talent, their knowledge, their institutional knowledge, their intellectual curiosity to learn more and grow. So it's your observation is 100% on point. So that's where the focus is constantly on people. How do we get our people to learn more, bring in another service, provide this, do that, be comfortable doing it, do it ethically, do it well where we're not being litigated. You got to do it right also. There's a lot that's involved. And it's really, when I joined here, and this was always a good firm. This firm's been around for 100 years. I think we celebrated our 100th anniversary. Unfortunately, COVID killed that, because we were gonna have a big celebration. And that's a major milestone for a CPA firm to be around for 100 years. And it takes a lot, but we also want to be around for another 100 years. and the business landscape is just evolving so quickly that you really need to be nimble, and you really need to be on top of it and watch what's going on and react to it. And not just, you can't, the days of everybody always picks on the baby boomers, and I worked for boomers. My approach early on when I worked at Biscotti Grassi, like I noticed that Lou Biscotti and Lou Grassi, those guys were in their offices at 7:15 in the morning. So I would get there at 7 in the morning. I was the first face those guys saw, and I was the last guy that faced those guys. So when they left, I was still there. And that used to account for a lot back then, but that's not the way it is anymore, because now to see me, they'd have to log on, send me a Zoom invite, so you have to, as a young person, if there's any young people on the call, or anybody who's has a child who's going into accounting or law or a profession, how do you get noticed? How do you make a name for yourself? How do you become that person that the owners, the partners are saying, I need that guy. That guy Craig was there. He helped me. How do you demonstrate that? And it's an interesting, that's a whole other call. I can't do that. I'm looking at the time. I have 5 minutes. And often I'll tell a client, your kid is getting a job in a big 4 CPA firm, have them call me. We'll talk it through. I'll give them a little pointers about how to get noticed beyond just being another little face in a box that's putting numbers in boxes or adding up numbers. Like that's part of what we do, and it's an important part. But how do you elevate and become an advisor, a trusted person? Somebody they rely on. That's a whole other discussion. So when you join the firm, Anthony, I'm gonna give you that spiel.
Okay,
I got lots of spiels. That's what
that's a deal. I don't see any questions. I mean, Melissa, you did an excellent job.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you for doing that.
Of course.
The Long Island office should be very happy. They have a leader such as Craig leading that office. It sounds like it's a wonderful place. And I want to thank all the participants today for Zooming in and listening to this wonderful program. So thank you all. And I want to thank Craig and Melissa once again. So thanks a lot.
Thank you guys for the opportunity, and to everybody on the Zoom, thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to have a conversation.
Okay, great.
Have a great day.
All right, thank you.
Everybody, have a good day.
All right,
Thank you.
bye
Melissa.
now.
Thanks, Anthony.